What is up, and welcome back to another episode of So There's That. I am your hostess, doing the mostest, Kiwanchi, and we are here with the fall finale, mid-season finale of Brilliant Minds Season 2, Episode 10, titled The Resident. It was directed by Demane Davis, who serves as one of the executive producers as well. And it was also written by Sarah Saedi and Will Ewing. And the director of photography was Claudine Sauve. Now, y'all know your girl loves to be right. And when mother is right, she loves to gloat. So we're just going to pause right now. We're going to take a moment before we get into anything to just clap for your girl. I will sniff out a plot and a storyline like nobody's business. I may get the little stuff wrong and maybe the crumbs along the way. But baby, when I tell you I'm reaching the destination that is laid before me, I'm getting there. So this episode is really not going to be the traditional, play by play kind of going through the things, because we kind of just got to the business, right? And so I want to make sure that I'm fashioning my recaps and my reviews and my thought processes in a way that you can follow along, but also what makes sense with the story, right? So, and I don't answer to nobody, so I do what I want. But before we're getting into the story, I just want to say, shout out to everybody on the team. I'm going to get more into this and my thoughts and stuff at the end. But I'm so excited that we got a full season order. It just makes this whole season that much better. And it leaves you with room to have an episode like this and know that you have 10 to 12 more episodes to go. So I'm super excited. It's time we get back to primetime TV. 20 to 25 episodes. Allow the audience to take it in and savor the flavors along the way. That is what we need to do. Now, getting into the recap segment, as we like to title, As Seen on TV, we're jumping right into the future, and Wolf is at Hudson Oaks. But this time, this is a direct follow-up of what we saw in episode 1, when he tried to escape and they ended up having to sedate him. So Amelia walks in, she's like, listen, I used to think that your stunts were a work of genius, but I'm kind of seeing that maybe these were points where you were unraveling and people probably should have probed just a little bit more. And Wolf is like, listen, I'm trying to leave. You holding me against my will. This is unethical. This is not right. And she's like, sir, you checked yourself in. Now, does that negate if he wants to leave? No, he wasn't on some type of med hold or anything like that. So he can AMA his way out of it. So I don't know what else she got going there. But she's like, listen, at some point, you're going to have to talk about him. You came here for help. You might actually want to try using our resources to actually get help. Who is this him? Oh, no. But she was like, this is seeming real familiar. Seems like that stunt that you pulled back at the gala. Remember that? And we move into the episode that ends up taking us to the gala. So there are some things that I'm going to go through. Again, like I said, this is not going to be this, and this. I broke this up because it was just way too many things that were answered. There were some predictions and speculations that beat that nail on the head. Then there are more questions, and then there are things that I just did not see coming. So we're gonna fashion these things like that. So predictions, answers to the questions. I said on this platform during episode 8, and I'm gonna plug that in here somewhere because I need y'all to know. So boom. I think, and I'm still sitting on this from the story that Wolf said in the Halloween episode. I think the patient that he lost while he was an intern, that he was really holding out hope for, was related to Charlie. I just feel like that situation is their connection and why Charlie is here. Like it's giving I went to medical school so that I can get revenge. That I said that. In episode 8, I was like, Charlie is related to whomever Wolf was like guilty about. There was no reason to show that patient during Halloween, and then the subsequent like friction that was going on between Charlie and Wolf, and then like this whole thing with like making mistakes and being able to learn and do all these other things. I'm like, there's a reason behind this. What was the reason? As one Belcalis Al-Mansar has once asked us on TV. Well, it was his mom. Yikes. And how does this development come about? Well, one Dr. Porter was asked or approached Muriel because she was running this whole holiday gala anyway to give a speech on, why he became a doctor. And it was during this speech that he had a picture up and he's talking about this. And, Wolf got face blindness. He's just sitting there standing around with the homies. But he's like, wait a minute. This is seeming real familiar. And so now he's listening to the story and he is focused on this big portrait card in front of him. And it hits him. Oh my God. That is the person that he's been torn up about, which apparently he thinks about on an annual basis. But for some reason, with his father coming back and then leaving and all these other things, it's now shaking him up in a way that has removed his foundation. Like all of these things are happening. This is not something that he can just swallow and just, come back to in the memory of every year and just be like, this is why I do medicine. I want to make sure that I always am there for my patients, stuff like that. This time, his whole world was flipped upside down. And so as this memory is coming back on the anniversary of her death, there's nothing really there. All of the things that you had that kept you grounded, that kept you safe, that helped you work through things and continue to be resilient, they're gone. And Charlie just dropped a bomb in front of everybody. But nobody else really knows what's happening here. And so they have the big confrontation outside. And what did I say? What did I say? In that same episode, I said, I think he's here for some type of revenge plot. And I was like, it wasn't my favorite, but it works in this story because we still get to see Charlie be a good doctor. And we get to really understand the motivations. And what is it? Revenge. But where I see the youth in this plot is Charlie's not only blaming him for the death of his mom, which he's not trying to hear that she wanted to extend her life to be there for her son and her husband as much as possible. He's not trying to hear that, right? He was 10. But 4 years later, his father drank himself to death, and he's blaming Wolf for that too. And it's like, even as you get older, unless you really address the trauma, it doesn't matter that you age in years. You will constantly be the same age at the time in which you experience the greatest traumas of your life. And so while he may have been able to potentially get through the death of his mom, for the next 4 years, he had to watch his father abandon him and then ultimately kill himself through drinking because the father couldn't take the grief of losing his wife. And so he is a great doctor and he is smart, but this is a 14-year-old boy with a world of hurt, a world of anger, seeking vengeance in a grown man's body with a grown man's intellect, moving in a way that is clever enough to not be detected and that would make Wolf look crazy. He's already gotten under his skin. He's already taken Wolf out of character. So at this point, it would look like Wolf is on a witch hunt for him, which is what was going on at the end of this episode when he goes to Josh and he's like, you need to get him out. And Josh is like, bro, I cannot fire him just because I had a disagreement. Do your job. Teach. Like, that's what you're supposed to do. You made mistakes. He made a mistake. Correct him. This is not a punishing facility. In order for him to be good, he has to mess up. But Wolf is not trying to hear that. But at the crux of his argument, as he's trying to appeal to Charlie's, greater sensibilities, that is what he's leaning on. I made a mistake. I was young. But isn't that what Charlie said? That I'm allowed to make mistakes? I'm meant to do those things. And it was just the perfect setup and it was a perfect plot device. And I feel like Brian Altemus played this pretty well. I'm not sure who else clocked it as early as I did or who was really like honed in on what that is. I see things differently sometimes. It's very hard for me to watch without investigating. I read this way too. Like I'm always like, who did it? Why? What is this for? This seems like it's coming out of nowhere, so it must mean something. Like I'm just that type of person. But I love it. And I was still gagged because he did it in such a public way that it was just like, I don't know what's going on right now. You think I got water near me? No. But he did it in such a way that was still like very much gag worthy in the reveal. So it was still fun to watch. But what I liked in the final parts of this exchange is, Wolf is being like, hey, holding on to the type of hurt and that anger, it could break a person. And Charlie's like, yeah. But let's see who breaks first. And you might be thinking like, dun, dun, dun. But you also have to go back to when Wolf was calling Josh's office. And Josh is like, bro, like, just leave. Like, what do you mean? And they end up finding the phone. And that is when you see Josh in the office with Charlie. So I like how the flashbacks and the flash forwards are like related to different time periods. And so hopefully during this fall break, if you're like a fanatic of the show, you go and watch all of the flash forwards and the flashbacks so you could put which episodes kind of pertain to what and see like if you can guess what is coming up next. Another thing that I predicted was that there were going to be all these little tiny pieces of people asking questions and noticing things about Wolf's behavior, where it's kind of going to be the justification from the people that's closest to him on why he needs to think about checking himself into Hudson Oaks in the first place. And the final person to mention something was Josh when he was dancing with Carol and was like, have you noticed like he's been really weird? He's not been acting himself. Because again, in this episode, he's trying to get Charlie fired. And so we got Carol seeing some things. We got Thorne seeing some things, even though he was on Wolf's side, but then we had Muriel going into his house and seeing some things, and now Josh is noticing it as well. So they're definitely building a case for this to not be some type of like undercover secret squirrel mission, and it might actually be Wolf is suffering from something. And could Charlie giving him the address to where his father is allegedly staying be the catalyst that Charlie uses to push Wolf just on the other side of a psychotic break? Who knows? Things that I did not see coming though. First off, y'all know I've been on this podcast begging for Carol to get her back blown out. I've been begging for Stella to get her groove back, okay? Stella! And we got Anthony looking good. We got Carol looking so bomb. I mean, as dressed, and that color on her, that plum, kind of like, it was like plum, but like magenta on her skin. It was looking great. And Amelia's like, girl, I see you looking at him looking at you, and I'm looking at you, look at him, look at you. So what are you gonna do? And Carol's like, you know, girl, maybe you thought of it. Like, might have a friend of you. So she saunters over, and of course, Anthony's like, girl, you got your revenge dress on. You got your freakum dress on. I am seeing all assets, no liabilities. And she's like, I know. And, you know, they're doing their usual banter. They're doing their usual flirting. And, you know, she's shoulders rolled back a little bit, chest leaned a little bit forward. She's smiling towards him and not just with him in the hospital. And a drink comes out, and the drink matches her dress. And she's like, Anthony, you saw me from across the room and ordered me a drink, you naughty boy. And as his face is falling, this girl comes up and she was like, oh my God, babe, I told you like to get it with vodka. And like, Carol's face is cracked. My face is cracked. Anthony, for some reason, face is cracked. And Carol's like, oh, hey, Justine. And Justine's like, Carol, girl, you looking good. And Carol's kind of like waiting for Justine to, you know, go sit at the kids' table. But then she puts two and two together. And she's like, oh, so like, y'all? And she was like, yeah, I know. We just look so good together. Like, he's light skinned and I'm light skinned. And like, I have curly hair and he has curly hair. And then like all of our light skin powers combined is gonna have like this light skinned baby with some hazel eyes that have specks of green when they stare into the sun during going hour to get that beautiful selfie. Like, yes, we are giving birth to the next Aaron Pierre, okay? And then one of her homegirls comes and takes her away, and Anthony's sitting there speechless. And Carol's like, ah. So this is how you know what the kids are saying. Got it. Don't even explain yourself. You divorced, I'm divorced. You single, I'm single. Do you? Go mingle, boo. And I just, once again, this is personal. This is personal. But, you know, Carol has her friend, Josh, to lean on. And Josh, what a smart man you are. to be in such a serious relationship that you tell Wolf about it. But you knew not to bring that man to this gala. Look at you. Look at you. And now you're able to be there as emotional support for your friend. And this didn't turn into a bloodbath, because I probably would have found a way to blue skidoo into this TV and just rewrite history. Y'all would have seen a Black Mirror episode live on television with me running in there and literally chopping Josh off at the knees. But he is very smart, and this is why he's a neurosurgeon, probably graduated at the top of his class. Another thing I didn't see coming, I kind of felt like Carol wasn't really vibing with Amelia, but it was giving like Amelia was coming on very strong. I mean, very strong. But it's giving that could just be her personality. Like, yeah, is she probably embezzling tons of money and robbing people? Yes. But two things can be true. And I like that in this space and in this environment, they were just two women. They're out, they're looking good. They're talking about boys, and they've both been through a divorce. Amelia's was 3 years ago. Last episode she was like, "Are you on the app?" Was that last episode? This episode, she's like, "Are you on the apps?" All of these things. And so you really get to see like Carol kind of relax in that space. And one of the things that's getting explored in this season is people kind of finding people outside of their immediate circles to just get different perspectives and to show a different side of their personality. So I don't know what this is going to come to, but I like what it looked like now. Next, you kind of saw it might coming, but it took such a back seat that I was surprised we went this route. And it's Jacob and Erica. And, there was this whole little love triangle in the first season. Interns, you're working so many different hours. And so it's very easy, especially in a hospital setting, to just get in relationships with people that you see and work with every day. You don't really have time to date anybody else and have a life outside of that environment, or even outside of that career field. And so with everything that happened last season with Van, and then just Erica being like, "Oh, this is messy, I'm just trying to focus on me," I like that they respected that. And there wasn't any blowback. They weren't treating her any type of way. Like, she was allowed to be a woman to say no, change her mind about both of these dudes, and keep it chill. But in this season, we saw, like, yes, Erica went to Van, and she went to Jacob, but Jacob kind of gave her the most sound advice and the very much in your face. And him being in the ER kind of, I think, underneath the surface, kind of stoked the fires of how he challenges Erica and how he's so different from her on the surface. But she kind of learned, because she joked, "Oh, you're a jock and you're this, that, and the third." But she kind of learned, I'm judging this book by a cover, and you're actually more sensible, and you're that thing I need that grounds me. And so now that Sam's storyline is wrapped up and it was a really good, happy ending, who does she want to tell first? Well, the person she's been leaning on the most in these past few episodes, which is Jacob. And it just ended up being in this nice, sweet, intimate moment that I thought was really special. And it wasn't one of those burning type of moments. It's that type of intimacy that rose through respect. And one of the things that I constantly say that I love about Brilliant Minds is the maturity of the relationships. Even at the different ages and the different stages of their lives, they still are practicing and treating each other with as much maturity as the tools that they have available to them. And so as young 20-somethings, they are approaching this pretty well. But they're also 20-somethings who've gone through things. They don't, especially those two, none of them have like super spoiled and privileged backgrounds and stuff like that. So it's just a different type of thing that you're not really dealing with privilege. You're not dealing with brattiness. You're not dealing with that. Everybody has some level of trauma that can allow them to relate to one another, even if it's not the exact same trauma. I hope this doesn't turn into a trauma bond. They have a genuine friendship, even in season 1, again, with the man from Grozny episode. And I like that he gets her to go and seek help for herself. And that's important. When you have somebody in your corner who inspires you to help yourself, that's a person that you want to keep around, whether it's a friend or a romantic partner. Now, Melissa. Van thinks that she stood him up because she was kind of getting cold feet a little bit with the relationship and kind of the pace that it's going, but she decided, you know what, cool, let's step out into society together. You look good, I look good, let's look good together. We're more mature, we know how to handle our child. You've let me know that you have mirror touch and all these things. So all the stuff that y'all struggled with as young parents, and it's him trying to hide this neurological condition, that's behind us. We communicate now. And they work very well together as a team. I love watching them work together, and I like those moments. I like those moments that we got when they were at home in their own little bubble as well. But the cliffhanger here, guys, and there's 2. Wolf going to Noah's alleged house, but Melissa is in a car accident, and we have no idea if she's dead or alive. And you see another car behind her, but you can't really tell if anybody is in it. I didn't really see it. But then also the way her car is hit makes me wonder if there was a third car that caused this accident, because hers looks like she was T-boned into the driver's side. But then the car behind her, the front, is jacked up. Now, I have seen my fair share of car accidents, and I've seen car accidents between 2 cars, and I'm literally like trying to do geometry and physics and trigonometry and calculus to try to figure out like how did they land in this particular direction. But something feels like this is a hit and run, and there could be 2 very serious injuries or 1 or more fatalities. I hope we don't kill Van's love interest. That would suck. But it's TV. And with prime time, you gotta fill these episodes. And we're getting into the exploration of a lot of the ensemble cast. So I don't know, man. And I've seen enough Law and Order to know that once you're on the edge of happiness, talking to you, Olivia Benson, it gets snatched away. And so I'm just trying to figure out who is NBC not gonna let be happy on this show. So there's that, guys. The fall finale of season 2 of Brilliant Minds. Now, let's get into the segment that we call Behind the Scenes. We're gonna go over some different things, and I'm kind of rolling this into like my overall thoughts and stuff as well. First and foremost, I've said this before, love the direction and the cinematography that's happening in this season. This episode, we saw like the girl, the dancer, experiencing extreme PTSD that's making her like freeze up, and in action putting that as a physical element in her case and really showcasing like that mental, um, keep whatever your themes are moving forward in the new seasons, keep that. I like thematically what that does. And it was the same way when Wolf, his face blindness is kind of happening. And then once it clicks, just everybody disappearing in that spotlight on him as he's like warped back in time and transitioning to that time with that patient. I just genuinely like that when they said this season was going to be more psychological, they're actually showing you through your eyes visually the psychological effects of like physiological responses to things that your brain receives. So really love that. Um, I like that. I guess like yeah, another string. Um, how do I put this? So I think that how do I want to say this? Okay, so everybody's always looking for like that that antagonist, that evil person, that toxic drama. And it's so crazy because people be like, I don't want no drama in my life, new year, new me, blah, blah, blah. But in TV, they're looking for nothing but toxicity, right? And I like that the antagonist in Brilliant Minds is not a person. For the most part, the antagonist is the disease. And no matter what's going on with the characters in the show, everybody's still working towards the result of helping the patient. And that's whether helping the patient fight something that is curable, that is manageable, or helping the patient cope with something that has a death as an outcome, whether it's imminent, whether it's 2 months, 2 weeks, 2 years, right? And so I like that that is the true enemy. And so in that, you really get to have fun playing with the humanity of everybody. And nobody's just good. Nobody's making just good decisions all the time. And nobody's just bad. Even with Charlie coming back in here, he's not a bad person and he's not evil. He's hurt. And that is a human thing to do when you want to seek answers and when you seek blame. You want to take it out on someone. You want to have something physical. You want to have something tangible that can sum up what you actually feel. Because if you have to contend with the fact that it's no one's fault, then you have to then accept life for what it is. And when you don't accept it, you implode on yourself. And so having a medical drama in 2025 that isn't, a whole bunch of people screwing in the doc box, that isn't, one doctor who cures all diseases, that isn't rooted in this lead is just a pure asshole and everybody else is his lesson or something like that. Like that's not what that is. And I think that that is the best part of this show. You can just watch humans be humans and you don't have to pick a side at all. And then knowing that there's information that people have and then information that people don't have, you really get to add some other dramatic elements. And now you kind of play into the suspense and the thriller inside of a show that on paper you wouldn't believe naturally has that. And for some reason, it reminds me of when Viola Davis was talking about Annalise Keating on paper versus when she began to play Annalise Keating for real. And this was during her interview with Sean Evans on Hot Ones. And he asked her a question, like, what was that like stepping into this role with this type of character? And she's like, okay, well, the character was written like this, and it was a lot. But now I'm like, okay, well, why did she change her name? Why does she wear these suits? Why is she in this house? Why doesn't she talk about where she's from? Why did she change her name? What makes her like this? And I feel like with Wolf, especially this season, but then seeing Erica this season, seeing Charlie this season, you kind of have those layers being peeled back. This isn't just a show about this, this doctor. He loves his patients so much and he's just this angel and he's going to move heaven and earth. He's going to get to them. No, this is a flawed man working with flawed people. And in those flaws, they get mad at each other. They have misplaced anger. They have distrust with each other. They are lying to each other. They are omitting the truth from one another, and they are lying to themselves. And so now I feel like this season we're getting like that motivation. We're peeling those layers back and we're watching the actors ask those questions in the as they're doing the table reads. They're asking the questions to the writers, they're asking the questions to the directors, and they feel more full and they feel more fleshed out as people that you want to watch week after week. So bravo to the whole team on that. Michael Grassi, the creator, and then of course all the writers and directors who've been contributing to the season so far. Love that, love that, love that. Now, I do love that we're seeing more outside of the hospital this season. And so because you get to have them outside of the hospital, they're in different clothes, and clothes tell a story. These are not just costumes that people are putting on and you're just like, oh, I think she would wear this. No. Why are we wearing this? Why are we wearing this color? Why are we wearing pants versus a suit? A s- yeah, like versus a suit versus a dress, versus heels versus flats, dress shoes versus, things like that. And so you really get to see them play with colors more, and their outfits are telling you where they are emotionally, where they are mentally. And then you get to change the tone of how the episode is going to be delivered and how the episode is going to be received. And I really like that. Um, Speaking of the fashion, like I said, everybody looked so good at the gala. But I've been hard on him this season. But I'm gonna give it to Josh. He looks so good in a suit. I'm just like, oh my God. Like, there is just nothing better than a tailored suit on a man. Exquisite. And yeah, he looked good. I'm gonna give him his 10s. I don't want to meet this boyfriend in the second half. But Josh looked really good. And speaking of Josh, I've been saying like Carol's storyline really shined this season. Her friendship with everyone is just so genuine. That is such a lovable, likable character. She fits in everywhere. Like, you're just drawn to her like a moth to a flame. But I will say that her friendship to Josh really stands out to me. We haven't gotten to see a lot of it, but they have that, like, there's no one way to have like that straight girl, gay guy friendship. There's like no one way to have it. There's so many different dynamics. And while Wolf comes off as like very gossipy when he's with Carol. I love when they have their sessions and they giving each other tea or whatever. Josh is nosy, and Josh is very much like Carol. So like, what's good? You get like, and you can feel that energy even when they don't talk about it. And so I want to see more of that. Like, just even when they're talking about serious things, there's just such a lightness. Like, it gives, if I were a gay man from Carol, you would be my man. And it gives, if I were a straight man from Josh, you would be my girl. Like, there's like some soulmatism there. There's best friendship there. There's an intimacy there. I don't know, they just give like two people in college who saw each other naked and it was nothing. They got dressed in front of each other. They talked about each other's, lovers and sexual experiences and the great ones and the terrible ones. Like, I don't know. I just like their energy and their chemistry on set together. And so I would love to see more of them. Um, Now, getting into a little bit of a messy workplace. I am 36 and a half. Um, Now I don't dislike mess. Don't get me wrong. I love being petty, and I think like pettiness is a grandchild of messiness. So, we're related. Um, and so I kind of want to see what these conversations and interactions are going to be like with Anthony, Justine, and Carol in the back half of the season. Like, especially because Justine was like, yeah, I've been down in the ER more. And so, we just been seeing each other more, being around each other and getting to know each other. And we've been getting more screen time in the ER too. So it's like, are we gonna bring this character in and get a little bit more visibility? Are we looking at an actress who's getting a little bit more screen time, could potentially, move up as a series regular in this season 3? You never know. But two divorcees who have mad chemistry, but like it's a timing issue thing, and not a timing issue like Josh and Wolf. That's like completely different. But Anthony was omitting something. He ain't exclusive with Justine, but you was smiling in Carol's face. You wanna zip up the back of her dress. You constantly staring her up and down. I mean, you're openly like, You come into Thanksgiving when she's standing next to her sister, you talking about something. I heard you make the best pie. Sir, you're eating her food that she put her foot in. And you couldn't say that you were seeing somebody. Once again, I'm gonna need Carol to stop taking this high road. I'm gonna need her to stop taking the high road. Or at least show us with Carol seeing her psychiatrist going off. Because I'm tired of these dudes playing in her face. We need an outlet. So she either gonna go off on Anthony, or she's gonna be going off about Anthony and about Morris in her own psychiatry sessions. I just no. My girl need release. We're done with the strong Black woman. We're done with the taking it on the chin. We're done with this. We're done with this. Done. Tired of seeing it. Carol deserves her moment. She deserves her breakdown. She deserves being angry and cussing and fussing and throwing things and breaking things. Like, she deserves it. And we deserve to see this from her. Like, yeah, it's time. It's time for her crash out. Speaking of crashing out, I feel like the Charlie Wolf story this season provided just the right amount of friction to catapult Wolf and No. Like, it was just enough lighter fluid on a flame that was already existing in the coals. And he didn't have to do much to push it because the Wolf was overreacting. So I like that. And so, like I said, I don't necessarily always like the revenge tropes, but it wasn't revenge just for the sake of revenge. It's tied into something else. And it's also tied into Wolf with unresolved issues as well. And so we know, we can surmise, deduce, or whatever, going into the back half, that it's not just about, I need to punish Charlie because Charlie came here to punish me. It's not about that. And I like that. Speaking of Charlie, though, I also like that he and Erica, in relation to Wolf, they're two sides of the same coin. Because Erica and Charlie, even by his own words, idolize Wolf. And y'all remember in the beginning of these episodes, Charlie was beefing with Erica bad. He just did not understand. Why are you always on Wolf's side? You just brown nose and you kissing his ass. You're doing all these other things. And she didn't understand why he was beefing with her. Like, what do you mean? This is the best neurologist on earth. Like, what is happening? And you can just see that it's Wolf's expertise and that passion that he has for overstepping when it comes to patients that ended up branching two people similar in personality, similar in like perfectionism into two different areas. Whereas Erica looks at him as a savior, that image of Wolf was shattered, and Charlie sees him as the bringer of death. But they are literally the same person. And so I'm now even more curious as to what Charlie's behavior looks like in Wolf's absence with the interns. Is he going to go back to episode 1, episode 2, Charlie? Or is he going to be more like the Charlie from episode 9, where he's digging and searching and kind of riling people up and planting seeds in them to either turn against the Wolf? And if they don't turn against him, is he going to exploit their secrets? Because he knows Erica was taking benzos. Thanks to Jacob, she disclosed this information, but he already kind of weaponized that to her. And I see him doing it if they don't get in line and follow his instructions. So we'll see. Will Givenchy be right yet again? I don't know. But I love villains so much. Or just like villainesque types. So again, if I wrote this, that's what I would write. And then, of course, this episode specifically, I love Donna Murphy so much. To get the opportunity to hear her sing in this episode was just, I ended up going on YouTube and just for like 30 minutes, just listening to her sing. What a performer, what an actor, what a voice. Just, she's so pleasant. And her stepping down as chief, you see her in this mother role. And it's right on time because Wolf is going to need that from her, because my man, who even knows what's going on? And that brings me to my questions that I have for episode 11 and beyond. So I kind of already asked some questions and, my overall thoughts of in the, behind the scenes and, kind of speculated a little bit, but there's some very specific questions that I do have. So I just think that first question, just making it clear, will Charlie become like a dictator and look to exploit the interns for his own personal gain to turn them against Wolf? My next question. Hudson Oaks, how you got all this money to not only fund the gala, but to match donations up to $100,000 of anybody who continues to donate? Call the feds. Call the feds right now. Lock her up. Because, ma'am, what? Even if Jacob and them was like, Hudson Oaks got enough money to do this? Oh, okay. Let's get into that. Will they, won't they? Canthony. I need my Canthony in any way, shape, or form. So whether they're a twosome, threesome, a messy-some, I just want it there. Even if it means Carol cussing him out. I just need like that angry, that steamy, like, I hate you. I hate you too. And then, they're in a duck box. That's what I want for them. Need that. More so for Carol. So, Anthony, I want that for you by way of her. Will we get more Muriel in the back half? I can't imagine your only child who just had his whole world turned upside down, and you just had your whole world turned upside down. I can't imagine her being absent the rest of these episodes. Definitely see her in at least 4 of them. I just cannot imagine her son being left without her, especially when she has nothing but time to devote to being the mother that she maybe always wanted to be, but she had to raise a son and keep the father from harming himself and everybody in the household. So, yeah. Will we get more Donna Murphy? Let us know. Let us know. Next question. Will we get flashbacks to see what's going on in Wolf's life outside of work? We're watching him kind of spiral, and we just got back into the house in the Thanksgiving episode. But what else is going on? Like, his behavior is showing signs of things that we don't see. I really want to see in this back half him alone. What is happening when he's alone? Is he on the apps? Is he, trying to date or trying to go out and have a social life? Is he drinking by himself? Like, is he on the phone with Carol? Like, I just want to know what else is going on. I feel like if we don't explore those moments that led us up to those things, it could deflate how I feel about the season. Now, we very well could get this because Amelia did ask him, you came here, you're going to have to open up. You're going to have to talk about him. Whether the him is Charlie been getting on his damn nerves, whether the him is his dad, whether the him is Josh, whether the him is his first boyfriend. Maybe he'll actually open up and we can get visual scenes of what else is going on. Because with just what we've seen in the hospital, I just don't feel like that's enough for me to accept that this caused a kyphotic break. A kyphotic break? Oh, wait. A psychotic break. Oh my God. I've coined kyphotic right here on the podcast. You heard it here first. So there's that. Yeah, I'm going to need to know more of what's going on. Otherwise, it'll just be like, meh, And lastly, dun, dun, dun. I need to be adding music to my podcast. Dun, dun, dun. Is Noah. I don't know. But what I do know is we're going to wrap up this episode. Cliffhanger, y'all, just like they did us. You know the drill. Like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Leave comments in the comments box below. If you got people that only want to listen, make sure you share the Spotify link as well as the Apple Podcast link. You can also follow me on Instagram at So There's That Podcast, where I post film and TV news and updates. I also post my article links and snippets from my articles that I write for stuff that I don't necessarily cover on the podcast as well on my Instagram account. You can follow me on TikTok at Kivanchi, where I post short form reviews on shows that I don't talk about on the podcast. Or if I do talk about it on a podcast, I talk about it episodically or by scene or plot specific to TikTok that I may have either forgotten to explore or that I just chose to explore on TikTok with, the messy TikTokers. Like I said, like a little mess, like a little petty. And you can also follow me on Twitter, my main Twitter page at Kivanchi, where I talk about everything entertainment industry, music, art, history, TV shows that I'm watching for fun, TV shows that I'm watching on here, just all of my thoughts in a less professional space. And then you can follow the podcast's official Twitter page at Pod. So there's that again, where I post film and TV news and updates and things that I talk about on the podcast, all of my different news, all in that space, as well as some things that's very exclusive to Twitter. Once again, the girl is working. And again, a reminder, exclusive things coming to Patreon in 2026. When I have an exact date in 2026, when I get all of this up, I will let y'all know. But if you didn't check out my Thanksgiving episode that was just for my YouTubers, go ahead and check that out, because that's going to give you an example of just things that I'm bringing exclusively to the audience. And we will be doing something for December as well to close out the year for that. I'm also wondering if I should do a best of video. I have so many and it's just me. So yeah, y'all let me know in the comments. And if don't nobody let me know in the comments on this video, I ain't doing it. I'm not gonna make it up. I'm not gonna be like, oh my God, people were asking me. No. Because it's a lie. But let me know if y'all want me to do a best of. I've always thought it was fun. I like listening to it on the other podcast. I'm just lazy. But I'll do it. If one person is like, Kikimachi, please give us a best of, I'll do it for that person. And with that, I'm going to catch y'all in the next podcast episode.